Gentlemen, I'll go ahead and call to order this hearing of July 17th, 2025 for City of Sherwood. My name is Joe Turner. I'm the city's hearings officer. I'll start with some brief announcements and a summary of the process that will follow so everyone understands how you can participate in the hearings tonight. There are two items on the agenda, the Diamond Pro Northwest conditional use and Bearcat Brewing Company conditional use. I think
recording in progress.
Diamond Pro is going to be our first one on the agenda. I went off script. I'm not sure where I am. My name is Joe Turner. If I didn't say that, I did say that. I start by saying I'm not a city employee. I'm licensed as an attorney and trained as a planner. I serve under contract to the City Council. I say that so you know you're getting a somewhat independent review of the applications before me tonight. My role as the hearings officer is to conduct public hearings and make decisions about certain land use matters in the city of Sherwood. In making those decisions, I'm required to apply the city's existing laws. I am not a policymaker. I don't have the authority to vary from or change the laws. If you think that the laws need to be changed, you can work with City Council and Planning Commission to do that. But state law requires that these applications be judged based on the laws in effect when the applications were filed. As a hearings officer, I'm to provide an unbiased decision maker. I believe I am unbiased with regard to these applications. I have not had any pre-hearing contact with any of the parties regarding the substance of the applications, and I don't have any interest in the subject properties or any of the surrounding properties. But anyone has the right to challenge my impartiality, to argue that I'm biased in one way or another, and you can do that when it's your opportunity to testify. Procedure will follow. We'll take the cases one at a time. For each case, I'll start by asking staff to summarize their staff report for that case, copies of which are available on the city's website. Then the applicant for that case will have the opportunity to present their proposal and respond to the staff report. Then if anybody else wants to say anything about that application in support, in opposition, or with questions or concerns, they can do so. Once everyone's had an initial opportunity to testify, I'll give the applicant or staff and the applicant the opportunity to respond to the testimony that was offered. If those responses include any new evidence, I'll give everyone a chance to respond to the new evidence. Otherwise, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and announce what I'm going to do with that case. Anyone with an interest in these applications may offer relevant oral or written testimony. But testimony should be relevant to the approval criteria which are set out in the staff report. Also, my decisions are subject to appeal to the Planning Commission. However, it's important that all parties make their best case to me because the Planning Commission may decide the appeal based on the record before me without taking any new evidence on appeal. Also, in order to preserve your right to appeal, you or someone expressly representing you must testify orally or in writing before the close of the record. And in order to raise an issue on appeal, someone must have raised that issue before me with enough specificity so people can understand what that issue is. And if the applicants want to object to any conditions of approval on constitutional grounds, they must raise those issues before me as well. If you feel you need more time to prepare, you can ask me to hold the record open or continue the hearing. If I hold the record open, you'll have an opportunity to submit additional written testimony and evidence before I make a decision. If I continue the hearing, we can come back and do this again at a later date. But whether or not the hearing is continued or the record is held open for any other purpose, state law requires that I hold the record open for an additional week for the applicant alone to submit a final written argument without any new evidence. The applicant can waive that right if they choose. If anybody else wants me to hold the record open or continue the hearing for any other purpose, you must make that request before the close of the hearing today. Also, my decisions must comply with state law that requires that the city, including any appeal to Planning Commission, issue a written decision within a maximum of 120 days after the applications were filed. So there's some limit to how long I can continue a hearing or hold the record open. When it's your opportunity to testify, please come on up to the microphone there. Please push the button. It is on. Never mind. Please begin your testimony by stating your name and your full mailing address. Please spell your last name so I get it right. And if you represent someone else, please say so. But that concludes my introduction. Start with our first case on the agenda, the Diamond Pro Northwest LU 2025-0004 CUP. Mr. Augusto.
Thank you. So this is for Diamond Pro conditional use permit. To give an application summary, the site address is 20525 Southwest Sipel Road. This is a request to allow an indoor recreational facility within an existing industrial building that was previously approved under SB 8507 and SB 8806, or just 6. The use itself will occupy 4,000 of the parcel's 32,000 square feet building footprint. These aren't completely subjugated. They'll be kind of a dual purpose, dual use kind of environment. The zoning is general industrial, or GI for short, and has been processed under the Type 3 conditional use permit hearing procedures. There you can see the applicable criterion that were applied within the staff report and addressed throughout. To get an overview of the site's location, you can see that it's located in the northwest, or I guess northeastern Sherwood area, right along the city boundary, abutting the city of Tualatin. Which these uses have been designated also as just general manufacturing, so overall just similar uses to what's kind of adjacent to it. So in terms of zoning and proposed land uses, indoor recreational facilities are a conditional use permit as defined by the GI zone district. While the secondary or primary use of the property, which is manufacturing, compounding, processing, assembling, packaging, treatment, fabrication of products contained wholly within an enclosed building, is a permitted outright use. So looking at the conditional use criterion, you can kind of see the different criterion that were required to be satisfied in order to receive recommendation of approval. This is related to public utilities, conforming to all applicable standards of the zone district, and complementary to abutting land uses, and providing for a facility that really kind of meets the needs of the overall community and achieves the goals and policies of the comp plan and the TSP. Other criterion that needed to be addressed was that this use was not going to adversely affect surrounding properties and can be accommodated considering the size, shape, location of the property. Does not pose significant adverse impacts to wildlife, species, or come into violation with anything state or regionally required in terms of environmental protection. You can look at the elevations of the site as it currently is formulated. This is a Google Earth image from July 2024. As you can see, these structures were what was originally permitted back in the 80s, and the site itself has remained in substantial compliance with the original approval. In terms of access, there's two-way traffic circulation entering in and out of the site, going onto the public roadway right there on Sipel. And then looking interior-wise, you can see kind of the proposed area posed for this kind of dual-use environment, right? The indoor recreational facility in the afternoon, with the hours mentioned within the staff report, and then the general manufacturing that is approved on the site as a permitted outright use and has been established. So in terms of infrastructure and transportation, Southwest Sipel Road is currently a two-lane road, kind of lacking bike lanes, curb and gutter, and sidewalk. Currently, the half-street right-of-way width is 35 feet along the subject property line, but no new modification or impervious area is really proposed with this development. And so there isn't really any nexus or proportionality to require additional right-of-way dedication or improvements, either built outright or with a fee in lieu. The domestic water service does have an interior reduced pressure backflow assembly, which is required by today's standards, and I believe is associated with or tied to CWS standards. Since the release of the July 10th staff report, there has been no new exhibits or new information added for the record, minor than non-substantive edits, so just minor grammatical things, colons, punctuations, things you notice after you issue the staff report.
Yes.
Public notice was routed to affected agencies on June 25th, 2025. Mail notice to the property owners occurred on or before June 27th, same with on-site posting, and was published in the Tiger Times June 26th and July 10th. General citywide circulation was on June 10th, so located in 5 areas throughout the city. At the time of this hearing, no public comments have been received. But we are willing to accept public comments up until the close of the hearing. So based on that information, staff finds that the application LU 2025-004 CUP Diamond Pro will meet the requirements of the city code as described in the findings and conditions of the approval in the staff report dated July 10th, 2025. Therefore, staff recommends the hearings officer approve the application subject to these findings and conditions described throughout. In terms of alternatives, the hearings officer can approve the application based on the findings and conditions of the July 10th, 2025, or July 10th, 2025 staff report. They can approve the application with revised findings and or conditions, or they can deny the application with revised findings. And that's it from staff.
Okay, thank you. The applicant for this one here.
Am I live? Yeah, there you go. Hi, Dennis Muir, M-U-I-R, the owner of the 20525 Southwest Cyple Road. Have electrical contracting business there at that location. Operated just down the road here for 24 years in Tualatin. And Northwest Diamond Pro is, kind of our way of giving back to the community. We help female student athletes. We train and prepare them for various different jobs. We have some ESPN analysts that have come out of here. A lot of college coaches, lots of players. I think we've raised probably, 25 to 30 million in college scholarships, which is a big number for young athletes. And again, I don't see, so that's kind of what we do. It's tied to a club team that we all started when we were young, and that is not the case anymore. So it literally is just a labor of love. So we do enjoy bringing these young people, and some are college coaches. We'll have a training for college coaches on a night. Most all of the clinics or practices or training that happens is between 5 and 8. My company is from 7 to 4, so there's 50 parking spots there, which I can't, you never really will see anything from between 5 and 20 vehicles in the evening. So I think the impact to that area really is non-existent in our view. And it's kind of nice because we have storage, storage on one side. We have a plant on the back side that runs 3 shifts. And then we have a flooring chain on the other side. There used to be the old farm there next to the property back when the gentleman.
A flooring chain?
Yeah, like a company that has, yeah,
chain
it's just
store.
a chain
Yeah,
store.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just
So we're kind of
interpreted that wrong.
tucked back in there, just south of the gas company, and almost across the street from the golf course, and corrugated box is right there next to us. So anyway, I didn't have a lot to add. I think it was, we spent a lot of time trying to prepare to get to here. So I don't have a lot to add. It's
That's
just,
fine.
it just kind of is what it is. And I appreciate everybody's time.
Do you have any objections to the findings and the conditions in the staff report?
No.
Okay. For the record, does anybody else want to say anything about this one? Not see anybody? Anything further from staff?
Nothing from
Didn't
staff.
think so. As the applicant, you have the right to have me hold the record open for an additional week so you can submit a final written argument. Do you want to waive that?
Yes.
Okay. Anything you wanted to add?
No.
Okay, with that, I'll close the hearing and the record, and based on the findings in the staff report, it does or will comply with the approval criteria. So I'll go ahead and approve this application subject to those conditions and issue my decision within a maximum of 2 weeks. Probably get it out sooner than that, but there's one ugly one ahead of you. So I'll get that out, then I'll get on these two.
Appreciate it.
I'll send my decision to the city will send it on to you, which is, since you're the only party of record.
Appreciate everybody's time and working with you on this.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with your training.
Thank you.
Okay, which is brings us to our next one on the agenda, which is LU 2025-005 CUP Bearcat Brewing Company.
All right, thank you. So the application summary real quick for this. This parcel is located at, let's see, 20345 Southwest Pacific Highway. The subject property is zoned light industrial and is about plus or minus 6.37 acres in size. The request is to establish a use categorized under restaurants, taverns, and lounges without a drive-through within an existing structure. The proposed use would occupy approximately 2,481 square feet of the existing tenant space, while the remaining portion would be dedicated to manufacturing, compounding, processing, assembling, packaging, treatment, fabrication of products contained wholly within an enclosed building, which is a permitted outright use. To simplify that, the secondary or the second primary use would be kind of brewery style, essentially pub, kind of creating the contents that will be served and provided within the proposed restaurant CUP. Real quickly, there is the applicable criterion, very similar to the last case that we saw. Both zones are industrial in nature, and both kind of follow very similar approval criterion. So to give a little bit about the site location, the site is located against Pacific Highway. Originally it was constructed in 1992 under SP 9206. You can see there's been a couple iterations there, SP 9503, so it was part of a phased project. Plan Amendment 97-9 is important because that essentially was a change in the zoning code where essentially they used to allow industrial zones. You could do commercial outright. Anything that was allowed in the general commercial zone could be allowed in the industrial zone. That was removed by the Plan Amendment, and then further clarified that uses on the site falling within the categorization of retail commercial could continue as long as it was established at the time when that change went into effect. This use was not established on that site, and also it currently would be categorized under restaurants and not under retail services. You probably recognize the site also because recently we had a hearing for another CUP, LU 2501. This was for the Back Nine Golf Facility. So
Thought it sounded familiar.
yeah. There you can kind of see the zoning map. And then when it comes to light industrial use, as of today, restaurants, taverns, and lounges are permitted conditionally. And then the other proposed use is just outright. It's very similar. It's kind of, that whole area is kind of a mixture of just commercial and industrial. So kind of sitting right in between there kind of offers a natural transition point from the commercial to the industrial without kind of creating this like strong divide or contrast. So just like the previous case that we reviewed here for Diamond Pro, Bearcat Brewing also had to satisfy the conditional use criterion. This is related to public facilities, conforming to all other applicable standards within the zoning code, the comp plan, and the TSP. And really the crux here is this proposal will provide for a facility that meets the overall needs of the community and achieves other broader goals outlined within the comprehensive plan and other vision plans associated within Sherwood. Additionally, it was found by staff that the proposed use will not adversely affect other uses or structures within the area and can be accommodated considering the size and scope and location and topography of the site itself, and does not propose any significant adverse impacts to any wildlife or natural environments. There you can see the elevations and architectural rendering of the building, or at least in part, that's the tenant space. Previously, it was a furniture store, this being as recent as September 2017. In terms of site plan area and access, there's two-way internal traffic circulation that goes around the building. You can kind of see how it was kind of phased. So this was phase 1. And then phase 2. They have 2 points of entry, one here, both leading onto Pacific Highway, and then kind of leading kind of in this direction. There is a future road identified within the TSP that was kind of highlighted within our engineering memo. But based on the size and scope of the proposal, staff did not find that it was proportional or really a nexus necessarily to require even right-of-way dedication at this time, at least until the site potentially redevelops in the future. Looking more internally, you can kind of see the layout of the proposed use, kind of for easier delineation. Staff looked at kind of highlighting kind of where the restaurant tavern would be roughly located at, while this portion right here would be more towards the manufacturing component of the operation. So a trip generation memo was written by McKenzie, and it was dated May 13th, 2025. It stated that there would be an increase of 95 average daily trips and 11 p.m. peak hour trips from the previous use. Currently, the subject property does have frontage against Pacific Highway and is fully developed. So all the infrastructure improvements, sidewalk, gutter, that was all relatively recent with some ODOT improvements that occurred, I think, in the last 5 years, 10 years, somewhere around there. The current property has stormwater runoff quality management treatment available on site. And the subject building is already connected to an existing public sanitary sewer line and has domestic and fire service from a public water line that's located within Pacific Highway. Overhead utilities are located along the subject property, and they do exceed the voltage threshold for requiring undergrounding, but due to the size and proportionality will not be required at this time, and then this was also forwarded over to PG&E, so they had ample time to kind of provide any comments or thoughts in terms of service availability. So the fun part. So just to kind of give kind of an update on the revisions here, staff.
Findings, and the first one's a finding, but the rest are conditions.
Yeah, so it kind of follows a linear manner here, right? So starting with kind of where the text is getting removed, just to give some context for the record, staff met internally after the staff report was released and kind of really hammered down the nexus and proportionality because of the size and scope of the development itself. and really all the infrastructure being in there without needing any substantial change. Staff felt that there was not an essential nexus at this time to require easements on the property that traditionally would be there by today's standards, but because of the time of, it being the 80s, maybe was not as robust as they are today. So there was some text removed from chapter 16.112, the water supply chapter, kind of talking about that said easement, and with that removal of that language, the conditions were also removed as well. This resulted in C3 and A10 being proposed for removal. Within chapter 16.114, stormwater, very similar language being removed, talking about the necessity to have a recorded easement. And that resulted in the removal of condition C4. Within chapter 16.118, public and private utilities, this was